Majoring in art and education, I chose to take this class because I think it's a creative combination of the two, and I thought I'd experiment with it. So for my final revision of my short story, I chose to revise the short story because it was probably my best work and the one I thought I could do the most with if I chose to revise it. So after I got back the first draft, I realized that my biggest problem was I was focusing too much on getting the point across to the reader and straight dialogue because I wanted them to know what was happening. So the title of my short story is Love, Lust, and Red Pickup Trucks, and it involves a young senior girl at high school. Her name's Sammy, and her boyfriend Jeff. She ends up being pregnant. She's trying to tell him on the night of prom night. And that was pretty much all the readers knew, because I was trying to get this argument in and it was just them fighting. So the dialogue was just straight dialogue. After I got the comments back from my peers and my professor, I realized that in order to fix this, I needed to add a description and scene, imagery, words that would really describe and add detail to what was happening, because that's what it lacked. Now that I've added it, I've gotten that sense of understanding, because when I first wrote it, or when I first read it again, I realized that my problem was that I was reading it as a writer and not as a reader. So I already knew the story, but the reader didn't know the story. So because I knew the story, I left out all the details. Now that I've gotten it back and I've reread it, I'm reading it as a reader and realizing what it's missing. So I will read you the argument chunk of my story, which was originally just dialogue. It was the two fighting, they was trying to make it real fast-paced, and it wasn't working out because it was just the two talking. So this is as they're driving to the dinner before prom. As we walked out the door, I could feel Jeff's confusion as he followed my lead out to his truck. "What's wrong with you tonight?" he asked as we were getting into his old red pickup truck. "Nothing," I said as I put on my seatbelt and shuffled some Wendy's food wrappers away from my feet with the heel of my silver shoe. "You really expect me to believe that, Sammy?" As he was pulling out of the driveway, a Wendy's French fry container got pierced by my heel as I attempted to move it out of the way. "What do you want me to say?" I said as I pulled the French fry box off my shoe. "I want you to tell me what's going on," Jeff demanded. "You couldn't handle it. Trust me." "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" he said, getting a little defensive now. "Jeff, I don't want to talk about it tonight." "Are you breaking up with me? What did I do wrong here?" I saw the tension growing in his face as he looked over at me. "Is there somebody else?" he asked in a low, angry voice. His hands gripped the wheel so hard they looked like an ugly whitish color. How do I tell him he's wrong? How do I tell him what's really wrong without ruining this night and freaking him out? I thought. At a loss for words, I looked down at my hands and looked at my manicure for the first time today. "Well?" he asked, looking over at me again. I could see much more irritation in his face this time. I looked back down at my nails again as I said, "I'm pregnant." My voice didn't sound right, like it wasn't my voice anymore. I shrieked as Jeff swerved the truck, nearly hitting the car in the other lane. I clung to the side of his truck and waited for him to remember that he was operating a vehicle. "I'm sorry, Sammy," he said, after taking a few deep breaths. "I just lost it there for a sec, but I'm okay now, really." There was an emptiness in his eyes, and his voice sounded hollow and weak when he spoke. "Do your parents know?" he asked. As he was driving to the restaurant, I gazed out the window, looking at nothing, but at the same time trying to see everything. My mind flashed back to that night. It was only a month ago, but now it seems like years ago. His arms felt so right holding me, and I felt like I could see my future staring back at me. And I was in love. I might be an adult now, but a month ago I was a stupid kid girl, and his mind was too clouded with sexual desires to think rationally. This old pickup truck was supposed to be something that I look back on with a smile as I remember that night. Now I sit in this truck and I don't feel right. I just feel stupid. No, of course my parents don't know, I said. I would probably be dead by now if they knew. Thank you.